I never imagined that moving to a quiet, HOA-controlled suburban neighborhood would end with me legally owning half of my neighbor's house. But if there's anything I've learned from dealing with HOA Karens, it's this. They will dig their own graves, complain about the hole, and then blame you for the shovel. When I bought my property on Maple Run Drive, it wasn't exactly my first choice. I had been looking for space land and somewhere peaceful to work remotely. My realtor kept reminding me that the housing market was tight and homes were snatched up within hours. But then she showed me this place, a nice corner lot, a yard twice the size of most others in the neighborhood, and the kicker, it wasn't technically under the HOA. That alone was enough to convince me. The strange part was, nobody told me why this one property was exempt. The rest of the neighborhood followed strict HOA rules: mailbox color, lawn length, fence height, house paint, even the type of holiday decorations allowed. But my lot? It was carved out separately. A grandfather, they said. It predates the HOA. I didn't think much of it until I met her. My neighbor to the right, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, the neighborhood dictator, the clipboard-holding, binocular, carrying, rule-screaming tyrant known by everyone as Karen Davenport. The first week I moved in, she came over uninvited, marching up my driveway like she owned the pavement under her feet. She didn't bother to introduce herself. No hello, no welcome, just, "You didn't get approval for those curtains?" I blinked. "A curtains inside my house?" "Va, they're visible from the outside," she snapped. "All visible diker must follow HOA guidelines, beige or white." I stared at her like she had two heads. "I'm not part of the HOA," her eye twitched. Karen did not like that answer. From that moment on, she made it her personal mission to correct the universe's mistake. The mistake being my existence outside her dictatorship. She complained about my lawn, even when it was neatly trimmed. She complained about my shed, even though it was on my property and well within code. She complained about the color of my door, my driveway, my trash bins, my garden hose, and even the way I parked my truck. But it wasn't until the day she marched over with a tape measure and a smug grin that things truly escalated. "We're too close to the property line," she said. "Your fence is violating HOA boundary rules. It's not your HOA," I reminded her. "It's still the neighborhood standard," she declared. "Oh no, it's not," I said calmly. "You don't seem to understand," she hissed. "In this neighborhood, we all comply. All. Of us." "Well," I said, "I guess I'm the exception." Her face turned red. Like someone pressed a panic button inside her skull, she stormed off, muttering something about lawyers and violations and the people like you. I shrugged it off until I received a letter, a very official-looking one. From the HOA, even though I wasn't under them. It demanded that I immediately realign my fencing to HOA standards or face legal consequences. I laughed. Then I called my lawyer. She laughed too. But this wasn't the end. Because Karen wasn't the type to give up. She was the type who escalated. The next week, she returned with reinforcements. Her husband, who looked like a man permanently tired of existing, and two board members from the HOA. They marched to my door like they were about to evict a tenant from a castle. Karen pointed at my fence like she was revealing a murder weapon. "We've measured your property. Your fence is over the boundary line. It's encroaching on HOA land. It's my land," I said. Her husband quietly whispered, "Karen." "Maybe," she snapped a quiet bob. I crossed my arms. "Did you have a survey proving this?" "We don't need a survey," she said. "We have HOA measurements." I laughed in her face. "That's not how property works." Karen's eyes narrowed. She looked like a robot processing an error message. "We will get survey," she finally declared. "And when it proves I'm right, you're moving that fence." Go ahead," I said. "I'll pay for the survey." She smirked. "Oh, trust me. We will. Trust me. We will." And that was the day she sealed her own fate. 2 weeks later, a survey crew arrived. They roped off my yard, hammered markers into the soil, used equipment I didn't understand, and scanned every inch of the boundary. Karen watched the entire time with the smugness of someone who thought her victory was guaranteed. She kept whispering loudly to her husband, "He's going to be devastated. I can't wait to see his face." Her husband just sighed into his coffee. She scoffed. When the surveyors finally finished, they gathered their tablets and brought over a printed diagram. Karen shoved herself in front of them. Let me see. I want to see the proof." They hesitated. One of them looked at me. "Sir, you should probably hear this." Karen scoffed. You no need to sugarcoat it for him. Just show him he's on my property. The lead surveyor cleared his throat. Actually, that's not what the survey indicates. Karen froze. The surveyor held up the map. Her face dropped as she saw the outline. Her house, her yard, her fence, her property for property. Except a large shaded portion of her house was not actually on her land. The surveyor pointed to the diagram like a teacher explaining a math problem. This section of the structure, approximately 47%, is built over the legal property line. Karen blinked. What? No, that can't be. That's impossible. The surveyor continued. The property line runs here and your house extends several feet over it. Onto his parcel. He pointed directly at me. Karen's mouth opened and closed like she was short-circuiting. Oh no, she whispered. No. It can't be his property. The surveyor nodded. Ma'am, the boundary is clear. The deed confirms it. I raised an eyebrow. So half your house is on my land. The surveyor nodded again. Karen looked like she was going to faint. My house can't be on his land, she shrieked. That's illegal. It's not illegal for him, the surveyor said calmly. But it is a serious encroachment issue for you. Karen turned slowly, her neck creaking like a horror movie doll, and stared at me with murderous disbelief. You must have cheated, you bribed them, I laughed. You hired them, the surveyor nodded politely. Yes, you hired us. Karen's face twisted. Then your equipment is wrong. No, ma'am, the surveyor said. It's accurate. We triple-checked. Karen's husband rubbed his forehead. Oh my God, I crossed my arms. Phew. So, legally speaking, the part of her house that's on my land belongs to me? The surveyor hesitated. Technically, encroachments can result in a transfer of rights. But generally you would need to negotiate or litigate. But the ruling usually favors the person whose land is being encroached on, right? Yes, he said. The courts typically favor the property owner. Karen began hyperventilating. No, this isn't fair. You can't own my house, you can't. Bob, her defeated husband, muttered, "Oh, Corin, please." Karen spun on him. "Oh, don't Karen me," she pointed at me like she was accusing me of stealing her soul. "You manipulated this. You tricked the entire HOA. You think you can take my house? My HOA will destroy you. Indeed, HOA can't do anything, the surveyor said. This is between you and the legal property owner. I smiled. Which is me? Karen screamed, an actual throat-shredding scream. Then she stormed back to her house, slammed the door so hard the windows rattled, and disappeared inside. I expected that to be the end. But when it comes to HOA Karen, nothing ends easily, because the very next morning I woke up to a letter shoved under my door, a cease and desist letter from the HOA demanding I stop claiming ownership of HOA property. They also fined me $750 for aggressive behavior. I burst out laughing. They were trying to fine me for owning my own land. I walked to the HOA office with the survey documents in hand. When I arrived, the board members were already arguing. This makes the HOA look incompetent. Her house can't be built illegally. This will ruin our property values. I stepped inside. One of them groaned. Oh God, he's here. I dropped the survey on the table. I'm not paying the fine. Karen was sitting in the corner with her arms crossed, glaring at me like a cartoon villain. You will pay, she hissed. You are part of this community, and we all follow the rules. I'm not in the HOA. You're in the neighborhood, she snapped. I shrugged. It doesn't matter. She slammed her fist on the table. You are not taking my house. I looked at the board. I don't want her house, but I do want my property respected, the president sighed. Technically, according to this survey, Karen screamed again. No, technically, just fix it. The room fell silent. So, the room fell silent. Then the president finally said, there's only one way to fix it. You'll have to negotiate with him. Karen glared at me like she wanted to strangle me. I'm not negotiating anything. Then, the president said, he can take legal action and claim rights to the encroached structure. Karen turned pale. Bob whispered, Karen, we might need to talk to him. She shot him a deadly look. Then she looked at me. Fine, she snarled. We'll negotiate. But don't expect me to make this easy. I smiled. Oh. A war she thought she could win. A war she had no idea she'd already lost. Karen didn't speak to me for 2 days after the HOA meeting, which honestly was peaceful. No screaming, no threats, no passive-aggressive notes taped to my door. For the first time since moving in, the neighborhood felt almost normal. But peaceful silence from a Karen never means the war is over. Yeah, it means she's plotting. I found out exactly how deep her plotting went when the doorbell rang early in the morning on the third day. I opened the door expecting a package, but instead saw two people in suits holding clipboards with Karen standing behind them wearing sunglasses and pretending she was famous. One of the suits stepped forward. "A Mr. Dalton?" "Yes?" I asked. "We represent the Davenport household. We are here to discuss the property encroachment issue." It took everything in me not to laugh. Karen had already hired lawyers. She was ready for battle. I stepped aside. "Come in." Karen pushed past me without waiting for permission. "This won't take long," she said dramatically. "You're going to apologize and stop claiming that my house is on your property." I raised an eyebrow. "That's what you think this is?" Her lawyer cleared his throat. "Let's proceed calmly, please." We sat at the kitchen table. Karen crossed her arms and tapped her foot impatiently while the lawyers opened folders. The lead attorney began, "Our client disputes the legitimacy of the survey." I slid the certified survey across the table. Across the table. "Oh, the one she ordered herself." The lawyer blinked. "Oh, yes, that one." Karen added, "They measured wrong because you distracted them with your presence." "On my presence? You were hovering," she snapped. "You were breathing aggressively." I stared at her. "A breathing?" "Oh, yes?" she shrieked. "You breathed loudly on purpose." The lawyer awkwardly held up a hand. "Well, let's remain on topic," he continued. "Our proposed settlement is as follows. You sign a permanent non-interference agreement stating that you will never claim ownership of any part of her home, regardless of survey findings." I leaned back in my chair. "And what do I get?" Karen answered before the lawyer could. "The satisfaction of doing the right thing." I burst out laughing. "Absolutely not." Karen's jaw dropped. "Oh, what do you mean not? You don't get to say no." "Yes, I do. You can't refuse. I just did." Her lawyer raised his hand. "If we go to court, we will argue adverse possession claims." I interrupted. "Adverse possession requires open, hostile, uninterrupted occupation for years. She didn't even know her house was on my land until last week." The attorney closed his folder slowly. "Well, yeah." I pointed at the survey again. "Her house is illegally built onto my property. I have every legal right to demand compensation, a land purchase, or structural modification." Karen stood up so fast, her chair slammed into the wall. "I am not paying you for my own house." I shrugged. "Well, then move it." She looked like she was going to explode. "I can move half a house." "Well," I said casually, "then you might want to talk calmly before things get worse." Karen stormed out of the house. The lawyers hurried after her. Outside, she screamed, "This isn't over. My HOA will crush you." 2 minutes later, I heard her door slam hard enough to shake the windows. The battle had officially begun, and then she escalated. Again, that night around 11:30 p.m., I took the trash out and noticed something strange near the side of her house. 2 men were there with flashlights. They weren't wearing uniforms. They looked like contractors. I walked closer. "Hey, can I help you?" The older one turned. "Evening, sir. We're here on behalf of the Davenport residents. We're conducting structural measurements." Karen peeked out her back door, watching but pretending not to. I asked, "Structural measurements for what?" The contractor hesitated. "She says she wants to build a new boundary fence." I looked at the ground and instantly understood. They were measuring around the part of the house that was on my land. She was planning something. The next day, I learned what. I woke up to beige construction stakes hammered into the ground on my side of the property line. They were marking a new fence layout that cut directly through my yard and extended several feet beyond where her actual legal line ended. I walked over to Karen's porch and knocked. She opened the door like a villain in a soap opera, holding a cup of tea and wearing a robe like she owned the continent. "What do you want?" she asked coldly. "The stakes in my yard," I said. "Move them." "No." I blinked. "Excuse me, they're not in your yard," she said, smirking. My contractors measured everything. "That area belongs to my HOA property." "Oh, your HOA is wrong," I said. Again, Karen stepped forward. "I'm building a fence, a tall one, a legal one, and you cannot stop me." "You can't build on my land," I repeated. Karen laughed, that evil, self-satisfied Karen laugh. "Watch me." She slammed the door in my face. I stood there, stunned. She was actually trying to seize my land. Again, even after the survey proved she was in the wrong, that's when I realized she wasn't trying to win legally. She was trying to outlast me mentally, break me with stress, overwhelm me with chaos, and reclaim control of the neighborhood she believed I had ruined by simply existing. But she underestimated how stubborn I could be. I called my lawyer immediately. She sighed the moment I finished explaining. Is she put fence stakes on your property? Yep. And she's planning to build on your land? Yep, she laughed. Good, let her try. I frowned. I could? Yes, my lawyer said happily. Because every violation she commits strengthens your case. Keep documenting everything. So I took pictures, videos, timestamps, everything. That afternoon, construction trucks arrived. Workers unloaded wood, concrete tools, and began prepping for digging post holes. Karen strutted around like a general commanding troops. First, she barked orders, pointed at them dramatically, and glared at me whenever she caught me filming. You can't stop progress, she shouted. You're building on the wrong land, I replied. No, she snapped. I'm building on my land. The land your cheap survey lied about. It's literally certified. It's certified garbage. The workers looked uncomfortable. One approached me quietly later and said, Sir, she told us the property line is somewhere else, but based on the map she gave us, it doesn't look right. She lied to you, I said. He nodded. We kind of figured. And if you build on my land, I added, your company will be liable. He froze. Oh, I saw panic flash across his face. 10 minutes later, the workers packed up everything and refused to continue without written proof of the boundary line. Karen marched out screaming, You can't just leave. I'm the customer, the foreman said, not at the risk of a lawsuit. Karen threw her clipboard at a bush and screamed at the sky. That night, I heard her pacing on her porch, muttering things like, He thinks he's smarter than me, and this whole neighborhood will take my side, and my house cannot be on his land. Around midnight, she had a full meltdown in her driveway. She threw her gardening tools, kicked her trash bin, slapped her mailbox, and screamed loud enough to scare the local raccoons. I thought it was pathetic, but I didn't know that she was planning her biggest move yet. The next morning, I walked outside and saw something that made my stomach drop. Karen had placed a massive wooden sign in my yard, on my land, a sign that read, A private HOA property, trespassers will be prosecuted. I stood there for a full minute in stunned silence. Then I walked up to her door and knocked hard. She opened it instantly, like she had been waiting. Remove the sign, I said. No, she replied smugly. That's my property. Not according to my HOA, she said. We voted last night. I paused. You voted on land ownership. Ah, yes, she said proudly. The HOA board unanimously agreed that the land belongs to me. You can't vote away my property. That's not how law works. It is how HOA works, she snapped. I took a deep breath. If you don't remove that sign, I will. She leaned forward and whispered with a smile, Touch that sign, and I'll call the police. She shut the door in my face again, this time harder. I was furious, not panicked, not scared, just angry in a calm, cold way. The kind that meant she was finally going to get exactly what she deserved. My lawyer was thrilled when she saw the photos. This is great, she said. She's just illegally claimed her land in writing. That's trespassing, boundary violation, and interference with property rights. So what now? I asked. Now, she said, we go nuclear. She filed an official encroachment claim, property interference complaint, and requested an emergency injunction. Within a week, a county inspector arrived. And Karen lost what was left of her sanity. The inspector walked the property line, reviewed the survey, and immediately removed Karen's sign from my yard. Karen sprinted outside like she was chasing a thief. What do you think you're doing? She screamed. The inspector held up the survey. You placed this on someone else's land. You cannot do that. Karen stomped her foot. That is my land. No, ma'am, the inspector said. It's his. Karen shrieked. The survey is wrong. The inspector replied calmly. 3 independent teams checked it. It's correct. Karen screamed so loudly a couple across the street came outside holding coffee. The inspector pointed at the boundary line markers and said, Furthermore, part of your house is illegally situated beyond your lot. You must begin corrective action within 90 days. Karen's jaw dropped. What kind of corrective action? You need to either buy the land from him compensate for the encroachment, or alter the structure. Karen looked like she might pass out. Alter the structure? Yes, ma'am. You mean move the house if necessary, yes. So Karen let out a scream so shrill a dog 3 houses away started barking. She turned to me with wild, desperate, furious eyes. This is your fault, I shrugged. You hired a survey crew. You tricked them. You marked my property with your sign. You provoked me. You tried stealing my land. You ruined my life. The inspector held up his hands. Enough. Both of you calm down. I was already calm. Karen, however, was at the edge of total collapse. She grabbed the inspector's arm and begged, please fix this. Please tell him he has to give me that land. Please. Yet, I can't lose my house. I can't lose my HOA status. Please. The inspector pulled his arm free. I can't override property law. You're in violation, ma'am. Karen sank to her knees dramatically, sobbing into her hands like a telenovela star. Her husband finally appeared in the doorway, rubbing his temples. Karen, honey, please get up. She didn't. She screamed at him instead. You never support me. Then she got up, pointed at me with a finger trembling with rage, and said in a hoarse voice, you may think this is over, but I will never let you win. She stomped into her house and slammed the door, but she was wrong, because at that point she had already lost. And she didn't even know how bad part 3 was going to be. For days after the inspector left, the neighborhood buzzed like a beehive. People whispered in driveways. Couples argued on porches. HOA members held emergency meetings behind closed doors. And every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me, as if I had somehow committed the crime of owning my own land. But the loudest sound of all was Karen screaming. Twice a day, every day, she yelled at her husband, the HOA, board, contractors, builders, inspectors, and even at the wind. She shouted on the phone so loudly that people across the street could hear her yelling things like, he stole my house, and I will not let a newcomer take what's mine. Meanwhile, I stayed silent. I stayed patient because I knew what was coming. The official paperwork arrived 4 days later. I got a copy taped to my door. Karen's must have been delivered simultaneously, because the moment I picked mine up, I heard the most blood-curdling scream I had ever heard in my life erupt from her house. The county decision was final. Karen had 90 days to resolve the encroachment, or the entire structure built on my land would legally become mine. Her house, her walls, her foundation, her property value. Mine, that was the law, and she knew it. 20 minutes later, she stormed across my yard and banged on my front door with both fists, like she was trying to break through it. I opened it cautiously. Karen pushed in without waiting. You are not taking my house, she screeched. I leaned against the wall. Karen, I don't want your house. Oh, yes, you do, she screamed. This is all part of your plan. What plan? What plan? You moved here on purpose. You bought this specific house because you knew mine was built wrong. You tricked everyone. I stared at her. How exactly would I know your house was illegally built? She didn't have an answer. Instead, she pointed a shaky finger at me. You are going to fix this. How? I asked. You're going to sign over that piece of land to me. Absolutely not. Her entire body shook. Why? She. Because it's my property. She stomped her foot, shaking the floor. You don't even use it. You don't need it. That doesn't change anything. I need it more. I smirked. That sounds like a you problem, she screamed. Actually screamed. A full primal howl of furious frustration. Her husband rushed in after hearing the noise. Oh, Karen, please, she turned on him. Don't you start with me, Robert. His name is Bob. He's been Bob for 52 years. But whenever she's angry, she calls him Robert as if punishing him with extra letters. Bob sighed. Karen, please stop yelling at everyone. I am fighting for our home, she shrieked, tears forming. He's going to take half of it, I said calmly. Only if you refuse to negotiate. Karen stopped crying instantly. Her eyes sharpened with suspicion. Negotiate? What? I moved to the dining table and laid out 2 documents. The offers, I said. Option 1, you buy the land from me at fair market price. Karen scoffed. Huh? No, I will not pay you a cent. I moved the second paper forward. Option 2, you pay a monthly land lease. Karen slapped the paper away. Never. I nodded. Then the only option left is legal transfer of property. Karen shrieked so loudly a passing jogger stumbled. She grabbed the lease paper and crumpled it. This is extortion. No, I corrected. It's what the law requires. Karen marched toward me with murder in her eyes. I will never agree to anything that lets you think you have control over me. That's your choice, I said. And you'll regret it, she shouted. Because I will destroy you before I let you take what's mine. With that, she stormed out. The negotiations had officially collapsed, and now the countdown had begun. 90 days after day 20, the HOA called an emergency meeting. I knew because they slipped a passive-aggressive note into my mailbox, mandatory attendance required for all neighborhood residents. I wasn't all residents. I wasn't HOA, but I went anyway. The HOA conference room was packed. People stood against the walls. Some brought lawn chairs. Others brought snacks. Everyone was curious how the neighborhood queen was going to save her throne. Karen stood at the front in a blazer 2 sizes too tight and hair sprayed so stiffly it looked bulletproof. When I entered, the murmuring stopped. Karen glared at me with pure hatred. There he is, she hissed into the microphone. The man who is trying to steal a home from our community. The crowd gasped and muttered. I raised a hand. I'm not stealing anything. A liar, she screamed. The HOA president cleared his throat. Please calm down. Karen ignored him and continued ranting. This outsider came into our neighborhood with the intention to sabotage us. He claims my home, and its HO home belongs to him. Again, gasps. I stepped forward. I didn't claim anything. The survey you ordered showed your house is on my land. Karen slammed her fists on the podium. Because you bribed them. The surveyor in the crowd stood up. Mom, no we did not. Shut up, she shrieked. The entire room went dead silent. The HOA president rubbed his forehead. Karen, this meeting is to discuss solutions, not to assign blame. There is only one solution, Karen yelled. We vote to make his land mine. The entire room sighed in unison. One woman whispered loudly, she's lost her mind. Another man muttered, you can't vote away someone's property. Karen pointed at me. Yes, we can. I checked our bylaws. The HOA legal advisor stood up. Our bylaws do not override state property law. Karen screamed, then change them. We can't change state law. Then why do we have an HOA? She shrieked. Half the room started laughing. Karen realized she was losing control and losing her audience. So she did what she always does when she feels cornered. She threw a tantrum. She knocked over the podium, stomped her foot repeatedly, and screamed until her voice cracked. Her husband dragged her out while she tried clawing the carpet. The meeting ended in chaos. And just like that, Karen lost the support of nearly everyone in the community. Day 40 came, then day 50, then day 60. Karen had stopped speaking to the HOA. She attacked her mailbox one night with a hammer because she thought the HOA was conspiring with me. She started patrolling her yard at night with a flashlight like a deranged guard dog. But the real breaking point came on day 63 at 7:45 a.m. when a demolition contractor showed up at her house. I rushed outside wondering what was going on. Karen burst through her front door in her pajamas, hair wild, screaming, "What are you doing here?" The foreman held up a clipboard. "We have an order to evaluate structural modification options in..." Karen's eyes widened in horror. No, I didn't order this. Get away from my house." She chased them off her property with a broom. But the message was clear. The county was preparing. They were not going to let the deadline pass without consequences. On day 75, the final notice arrived, both to me and to Karen. She had 15 days left. If no agreement was made, the county would authorize transfer of the encroached structure to the rightful landowner. Me. That was the night Karen broke completely. At 2 a.m., a loud banging rattled my front door. I grabbed a flashlight and opened it cautiously. Karen stood there barefoot, hair tangled, eyes red, shaking like a malfunctioning robot. "You win?" she whispered. I blinked. What? You win? Are you happy?" she shouted, voice cracking. "You broke me. You destroyed my life. You took everything." I didn't take anything," I said. "Yes, you did," she sobbed. "Everyone hates me. The HOA removed me from the board. My husband moved to his brother's house because he needs a break. And I can't sleep because I have nightmares of you tearing my house apart." She grabbed my shirt desperately. "Please," she whispered. "I'll do anything. Just don't take my house. Please, please." For a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered everything she put me through. The fake violations, the threats, the screaming, the illegal signs, a harassment, the lies, the attempted land theft, the midnight inspections, the HOA ambushes. And I remembered something my lawyer said early on. A Karen will never stop until she's forced to stop. I pulled her hands off my shirt. I gave you options, I said. She stared at me with hollow eyes. I can't afford to buy the land. You can afford the lease, I said. She nodded slowly and collapsed to her knees in exhaustion. Okay, she whispered. I'll sign the lease. She did, right there on my kitchen counter. And when she pressed the pen down, she broke into uncontrollable sobs. The war was over, officially, legally, and permanently. After everything she had done to me, after all the battles she started, after all the chaos she unleashed, her entire fate now depended on me. She would pay me every month for land under her own house. The lease was long-term, legally binding, and ironclad. She could never remove me, never override me, never threaten me with HOA rules again. I didn't take half her house. I didn't demolish anything. I didn't need revenge. Reality was revenge enough. Because nothing in the world hurts a Karen more than knowing she lost control. In the end, she wasn't angry. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't threatening lawsuits. She was defeated. Completely, utterly, forever. And every month when the payment hits my account, I remember the moment she screamed at the inspector, "You can't take my house." I didn't, but I took her power. And for someone like her, that's worse.